Up-and-coming firebrand Congressman Brandon Gill absolutely pummels a woke, annoying, leftist race baiter. Folks, I don't know about you, but I can't stand these people. They are a projection of everything they claim to hate. They say they hate racism, they say they hate misogyny, sexism, whatever, and they do all of those things times 10, all while saying that you're the bad guy. It is absurd, and you're going to see a stinking example of this right now. But first, do me a huge favor here and like our video and also share it around so that way we can keep bringing you all of this great, hard-hitting content. And as always, Patriots, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
Do you believe that America should be a colorblind society? For instance, should people be treated differently based on their race? It's just a yes or no question.
It's not a yes or no question.
It's a yes or no question.
It is a, as I said in the beginning of my testimony, America
yes or
has
no
not done
fine.
right by indigenous peoples, by black people, by Asian American and Pacific Islander
Should people
people.
be treated differently based on their race? Yes or no?
People should receive the services and the support and the remedies that
So
are
your answer
owed to
is
them.
that they should be treated differently based on their race.
They should receive the remedies that are owed to them because of the systemic racism
Do you
and
believe
injustice.
that? Do you believe that race should be considered in employer hiring practices?
I do not believe that white people are the only qualified people for jobs.
I didn't say that. Nobody said that. I asked you if race should be considered in employer hiring practices. And you're not going to intimidate me by slandering me as a racist.
You're also, I did not call you a racist.
No,
You're not going to intimidate me by
implied
insisting that I called you a
a straightforward
racist.
question. It's a yes or no question. Should race be considered in employer hiring practices? Yes or no?
Obviously, the answer is yes, but he's too afraid to say it. And there's this extreme hesitation leftists have with answering the most basic of questions sometimes. It kind of reminds me of that whole "What is a woman" movie and how that ensued. You notice how it's kind of a similar playbook every time. First, they act confused about why you're asking such an obvious question. Then they'll go, they'll dance around it. Then they'll get angry at you for even daring to ask it. It's really, I don't know. It's disturbing. There's really no other way to put it.
I believe that diversity ought to be considered as companies and other organizations attempt to reflect their customers,
I'll take that as a yes.
our country.
I'll take that as a yes. Which race do you think should be preferred?
I do not think that a single race should be preferred.
You just said that you believe that race should be considered in employer hiring practices.
I don't know. There's going to be a transcript of this hearing. I didn't say that in that way.
Okay, why don't you explain what you believe?
What I said
briefly.
and what I believe is that the demographic composition of workplaces,
Which
our
is,
nation's military,
by
and
demographic
so on,
composition,
our Congress ought to reflect the diversity of the United States of America.
Racial demographic composition. Racial demographic, is that what you're saying?
Racial, gender.
Okay, so race should be a factor in employer hiring practices. Yet that's what you're saying, is it not?
Organizations ought to attempt to match the diversity of
you're
their...
hopping around the question.
No,
you don't want to
I am
answer
answering quite straightforwardly,
Who
as a
gets
matter
to
of fact.
determine which races are preferred?
I already told you I don't have a single racial group.
You just told me that you believe that the racial demographic makeup should be taken into account in hiring practices.
And it should be reflected in all levels of companies and other organizations.
Okay, let's talk about...
No, it shouldn't be. And this, by definition, means you're going to have less qualified people running the show, which in the case of business means less efficiency, more headaches, things of that nature. And in the case of other situations, life and death in many cases. United Airlines, for example, put out an initiative where they promised that 50% of new hires will be either women or people of color. Okay, as you probably know, over 90% of pilots are white men. Well, what does this mean? Well, think about what they just said. Women and people of color. That just means anybody who's not a white man, by definition. It's really quite disgusting. They talk about racism and sexism and all this kind of stuff. They practice it in the most extreme way, more than anybody else does in our modern society. I don't know about you guys, but every time I get into the plane and the pilot isn't, a white man, I actually get a little bit nervous. I say a quick Hail Mary because I don't even know what's going to happen. And hopefully one day we'll get to a society where we don't have to do that, where in the rare case that we do see a pilot who's not a white man, we think, oh, that person just happened to be qualified. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury today.
About college admissions. If two different children are applying for college, let's say one is white and one is black, and there's one slot available, should they be evaluated based on the same objective criteria? Test scores, for instance.
Are you familiar with holistic admissions?
Should they be held to the same standards regarding test scores?
I am a proponent of holistic admissions.
It's just a yes or no question.
Yeah, no, I can't answer that question for you as a proponent of holistic admissions.
Got it. I'll take that as a no. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The holistic emissions this gentleman here is talking about, if you want to call them that, are just another excuse to practice racism in our society. In the case of him, anti-white racism, I am sure. Holistic emissions essentially means, let's say, hey, let's put aside the whole meritocracy thing, the whole qualification thing, and look at the whole candidate. And they have some clever left-wing ways of defining this. Here's a definition, for instance, from the American Association of Colleges of Nursing. Spoiler alert, they're a leftist organization, and this is on their diversity, equity, and inclusion page. And it says right here, a holistic review is a university admission strategy that assesses an applicant's unique experience alongside traditional measures of academic achievement, such as grades and test scores. Isn't that cute? In other words, don't take people based on their real qualifications. Let's look at, their experience, like their skin color. Ho, shocker. Now, these insane initiatives are not just limited to sex and race. All right, we've gotten to a point where the Democrats now even want to give the incompetent some bonus help. You are not going to believe what you are about to see.
The FAA has prioritized hiring people with severe psychological disabilities, with psychiatric problems, and with physical and mental issues. That is straight from the FAA. Now, the question is, do you want people with severe psychological problems being involved in any respect at all with planes landing at DCA or any other airport, or do you want the people at the FAA to be the most highly qualified people imaginable? That's what I want. That doesn't seem to be what the other side of the aisle wants. I think that the American people have been very clear. They are sick of DEI. They're sick of prioritizing woke race-based hiring or hiring people for anything other than merit. And that's exactly what President Trump is addressing here. He was sent to Washington to go after policies just like this, and that's exactly what he's doing.
It's madness. I mean, how is this even a debate? And by the way, there's another way you can translate what the FAA is saying for who they want to hire. Just hire more leftist Democrats. It really is that simple. Folks, we are living in a crazy world today, but thank God there are some sane people left, including you, my amazing viewer who tuned into our video. Thank you so much, guys. Comment below. Let us know what you liked, what kind of things you want to see in the future, and make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and that way we will see you again soon. God bless.